Welcome in to Weather Wednesday here at New England Storm Center. So, after a rather stagnant pattern over the past several days, the pattern will be shifting. This comes in the form of a ridge sliding eastward as it breaks down. This will allow a more mild air mass that has been bottled up to our west slide into New England. Each day will be a bit warmer than the last until it peaks on Saturday with highs well into the 40s in northern New England and well into the 50s in southern areas. Reaching 60 in the warm spots of southern New England isn't out of the question, though cloud cover may limit this potential. I think most areas will likely fall short of daily record highs on Saturday, but if everything aligns right, some records could fall. Most southern New England climate locations have daily record highs into the 60s, into like the mid 60s for February 10th. So we would really have to push the envelope to get to those numbers on this February 10th. The warmth on Saturday comes as a system will pass to New England's north. This will drag a warm front across New England. This setup puts New England in the warm sector with a strong southerly flow transporting mild air from the south into New England. This front will trigger some clouds and isolated showers. The overall trend has been for less shower activity, and many areas will not only be warm, but will also likely be mainly dry, with potentially some sun coming out on Saturday. So we'll have the strong warm air advection, but we won't have an intense storm along with it like we had in these similar situations and setups in both December and January. The December 17th to 18th storm, the January 10th storm, and the January 13th storms. All very intense storms where New England was in the warm sector. There will be no intense storm with this strong warm air advection. It will really feel like spring on Saturday. If you would rather February feel more like winter, uh, just hang on. This warmth will not be lasting. I can promise you that. The system will drag a cold front across the region later on Saturday into Sunday. This front will not create a sharp cool down. It will more likely be a very gradual drop in temperatures, with Sunday still likely well above average. The temperature trend will continue downward to more seasonable levels after the weekend. Right from the start of February, signals have been pointing to a colder late February than early February. We mentioned this in our monthly outlook. This continues to hold true with much colder air likely for next week and potentially beyond. This comes as North Atlantic oscillation is expected to weaken and trend negative. Arctic oscillation will also crash into a deep negative phase after starting the month strongly positive. A weaker and negative phase of both these oscillations would support more cold air intrusions getting into New England. Also, heading toward the middle of the month, a persistent trough in the western United States will begin to weaken and likely shift eastward. All of this points toward colder, more winter like weather for the second half of the month, with an increased potential for Arctic blasts into New England. Also, heading into next week, storm chances do return. A coastal storm is looking increasingly likely to form early next week and move near New England Monday into Tuesday. As you would expect from this point, there is a wide range in potential tracks, with a more mild storm bringing rain and snow, a mostly snow event, or a potential mist to the south still on the table. This is the main feature we'll be watching through the rest of this week, as accumulating snow is becoming more likely somewhere in New England out of this one. Models will likely continue to go back and forth on what will happen with this storm over the next couple days before settling on a track. Likely heading into Friday afternoon into Saturday morning is when models will likely start really coming together, as usual. Colder air will be filtering into New England during this time frame, with a cold front possibly dropping into New England early next week. The question may come down to how quickly things can cool off from the weekend to get at least parts of New England into the snow versus rain and mixing. There's plenty to watch with this one, and we will be watching. Speaking of snow, New England missed out on a big time marathon blizzard this past weekend. At the start of February, an area of low pressure passed to New England's north. This storm dropped 5 to 8 inches of snow on northern Maine before continuing its journey eastward. After exiting Maine, the storm slowed to a crawl thanks to a large scale blocking pattern over North America. By Friday, February 2nd, the storm had stalled and continued to spin south of Nova Scotia. Over the past 72 hours plus, bands of heavy snow and strong winds have cycled through Nova Scotia. This has dropped a total of 3 to 4 feet of snow in places, with a storm maximum of 59 inches or 150 centimeters if you're going by Canada. This stalled storm has finally begun the process of exiting the region. The storm stalled just too far to the east to bring New England a widespread snowfall. The hardest hit area of Nova Scotia was the Cape Breton Island area, where one observer in Sydney measured nearly 5 feet of snow. Strong winds created blizzard conditions on Cape Breton and across Nova Scotia. This has led to snow drifts much higher than the reported total snowfall. The island of Cape Breton has declared a state of emergency, and the heavy snowfall even smashed through the windows of some apartment buildings in the area. It will likely be days before all roads across the province are clear. The region's largest city, Halifax, saw varying amounts of snow across their metro area, but the Halifax Stanfield International Airport picked up just under 3 feet of snow. This has led to the deepest snowpack on record at the airport. On Monday, Cape Breton Regional Police reported over 550 service calls over the weekend, as well as, quote, many, many, many stranded motorists and abandoned vehicles. This all comes around the 46th anniversary of New England's blizzard of 1978, which was headlined by abandoned vehicles on the highway and a days long plowing effort. The blizzard of 78's likely maximum snowfall is around the 40-inch mark in New England. This is one of at least 6 snowstorms in the New England Snowstorm Hall of Fame that you can find at newenglandstormcenter.com to have dropped at least 40 inches on New England. Some other storms that are in that category are the Great White Hurricane of 1888 at 50 inches. You also, of course, have the blizzard of 1962 in Maine, which was one of the most impactful in Maine's history. And in the past few years, two non blizzard nor'easters have dropped very large snowfall amounts on New England. In 2020, a nor'easter dropped 48 inches on Danbury, New Hampshire. And just last year, a similar nor'easter dropped 42 inches on Reedsboro, Vermont. Nova Scotia's blizzard easily surpassed all of these looking at maximum snowfall. If this blocking pattern was set up just a bit differently, this Weather Wednesday would be much different, as we would be talking about a blockbuster New England blizzard rather than a blockbuster Nova Scotia blizzard. The following image shows a graphic we used in an article that we published on Friday showing the overall setup for this past weekend. This setup helped clear active weather out of New England as our region sat on the edge between a ridge to the west and a trough to the east. If New England sat in the center of this trough, a low pressure system seen just east of Nova Scotia would have stalled closer to New England, with eastern New England and particularly Maine likely digging out big time. Shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? You can thank high pressure to the west and north for keeping New England dry. So, with all of that said, that is going to do it for this edition of Weather Wednesday here at New England Storm Center. So, as always, thank you for listening, thank you for watching, and you will hear from me again next Wednesday.